Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different, focusing on just one really high stakes decision. It's facing the Kansas City Chiefs front office right now with the trade deadline just looming. We're not talking about the whole roster here. This is laser focused on the backfield. Things are getting tense there, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Our mission today really is to dissect that pressure point in the Chiefs' backfield. We need to figure out exactly how the performance of this one rookie running back, Brashard Smith, well, how his next game could completely flip the team's trade strategy, could save them some serious draft capital, or cost them.
And the timing here is just critical, isn't it? Because we know Isaiah Pacheco, their star back, he's out for week 9. So that usual safety net, gone. Which means all the eyes, all the pressure, it's landing right on Smith this Sunday. He has to step up.
He absolutely does. And for you listening, you need to grasp the kind of balancing act that contenders like the Chiefs face. You're aiming for a championship, right? So when do you trust the guy you drafted, the internal development project? Or when do you hit the panic button and make that big external, splashy addition because you need to win now? Smith, right now, is the single biggest factor tilting that balance one way or the other. It's huge. Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. The report suggests the front office is already nervous looking around at options. But what are the specific numbers, the hard stats from Smith's season that have got them spooked? What's the actual production gap?
Well, the numbers are pretty rough for a third-round pick they expected to contribute right away. We're looking at only 75 rushing yards total across 7 games.
75, wow.
And maybe even worse is the efficiency. He's averaging just 3.0 yards per carry. Now, just to give some context there, your average NFL starter is usually somewhere around maybe 4.2 to 4.5 yards per carry. Smith is consistently getting stopped way short of that league standard.
And it's not like he's had a huge workload to, excuse those numbers either. The reports say he's been used sparingly. That tells you the coach has already had some major doubts, right, about putting him in key spots.
Exactly. And think about who has been getting the carries. Pacheco, when he's healthy, and then you have the aging Kareem Hunt still chipping in. It just highlights how little trust they seem to have in the rookie right now. Smith was meant to be the future, the guy with upside, but he hadn't even locked down a reliable backup role yet.
So, okay, if he struggles again this week, what's the real cost? We keep hearing about this panic button.
Yeah.
What does that worst-case scenario actually look like? Are we talking draft picks?
The sources are pretty blunt about it. Another tough game this weekend. Then it's officially time to push the panic button. And pushing that button, in this situation, means the front office feels forced to make what's being called a blockbuster addition before the deadline. That suggests giving up something really valuable, probably a high draft pick next year, maybe a first or second rounder, or even a solid rotational player, all for potentially just half a season of help. And think about this. If they bring in a true starter, Smith could even get pushed off the active roster. Gone. Making that third-round pick feel like a complete waste.
Man. So a potential high draft pick in 2026 is basically riding on a rookie who's averaged 3 yards a carry this season. That is just an insane amount of pressure for one game. But is it really rational, letting 75 yards dictate your whole championship strategy? Isn't that maybe an overreaction, driven by the deadline?
Well, the reporting suggests it's maybe less an overreaction and more a failure in their contingency planning. Pacheco getting hurt has kind of exposed this gap. They need a reliable back who can handle carries. The Chiefs offense, even with Mahomes, it relies on a decent run game. It balances things out, it controls the clock, especially against good teams. If Smith can't even give them basic consistency, the whole offense becomes easier to defend, particularly down near the goal line. So, yeah, they're desperate because they feel they can't afford to have this weakness hamstring the entire offense for the rest of the year.
Okay, that makes the risk much clearer. Now, let's say Smith does struggle, and they need that starter. They still have Kareem Hunt. He complicates things, right? Let's talk about him. Why is it apparently so hard for the Chiefs to just move on from Hunt, even if they trade for a new #1 guy?
Yeah, Hunt's role is where the details of the backfield really matter.
Yeah.
Moving him isn't difficult because of his overall yardage. He's not getting 20 carries a game anymore. It's about his specific skill set, his utility. He is, very simply, their best short yardage weapon.
Short yardage.
We're talking pure efficiency in tight spots. The data apparently shows Hunt converting something like 85% of his third and short runs this season. That kind of reliability on third down near the goal line, it's incredibly valuable for keeping drives alive, controlling the game. Neither Pacheco, and definitely not Smith so far, has shown they could do that consistently when the field gets compressed. They trust Hunt there.
That does make it tricky. If Hunt is that vital in that specific niche, wouldn't bringing in a new primary starter potentially mess up that chemistry if the new guy wants all the snaps?
It definitely could, yeah, if the new player demanded those specific short yardage carries. But the ideal scenario, reading between the lines of the sources, seems to be finding a workhorse back, someone who can handle the tough runs between the tackles and the bulk carries Pacheco usually takes. They would then let them keep Hunt just for those key situations, especially near the end zone. So the decision isn't really about replacing Hunt entirely. It's finding a starter that lets them keep using Hunt where he's most effective without needing him for, say, 15 touches a game.
Okay, so let me try and summarize this. If Smith fails this week, the ideal trade then is for a primary back who takes the main load off Mahomes in the passing game. And you keep Pacheco, presumably, as the change of pace backup once healthy, and Hunt stays as that specialized short yardage and goal line guy. But if Smith actually plays well this weekend, he basically saves the Chiefs from having to make that expensive trade altogether.
That's it exactly. If Smith steps up, they save the draft pick, keep developing him, feel better about their depth. If he tanks again, they likely spend that pick, and Smith's future with the team looks very shaky.
And this is where it gets really intense, because this audition, it's not against just any team. It's against the Buffalo Bills, one of their biggest, most watched regular season rivals. This isn't just about stats, is it? It feels like a character test, too.
Oh, the rivalry context just cranks everything up to 11. This game gets the whole league's attention, right? Because of the history there. You know, the Bills' playoff struggles against the Chiefs. The narrative is it's a one-sided rivalry when the games matter most. That kind of intense national spotlight just elevates this game way beyond a normal Week 9 matchup. And look at the Bills' defense this year, too. They're consistently good against the run, usually top 10, a really solid defensive front. So Smith isn't getting some easy test against a weak defense. No, he's got to do it against a tough playoff-level opponent in a hostile environment. The difficulty just makes the potential payoff even bigger.
But why is this performance weighted so heavily? One source said a big game here could be like 2-3 great performances against other competition. How does one good game against the Bills suddenly erase, months of underwhelming play? Is that fair?
I think the source is tapping into maybe organizational psychology and narrative. For the coaches, for the front office, this is like the ultimate stress test. You want to win a Super Bowl. You need guys who perform under pressure. So if Smith delivers against this rival, a team that's given them fits, it sends a signal. It suggests maybe he can handle the heat of playoff football down the line. It becomes a statement game. It changes how everyone sees him, from maybe a frustrating bust to potentially a clutch player. It's also about restoring internal belief, If he plays well, the front office can genuinely tell themselves and tell the fans, okay, our running back room is fine. And then they can use their trade deadline resources to maybe focus on other positions, perhaps grab that defensive end they need or another receiver instead of desperately scrambling to fix the running back spot.
Right. So failure isn't just losing the game. Failure confirms their worst fears about that draft pick. If he struggles against the Bills, they basically know the investment hasn't panned out and they have to spend more capital right away to fix it.
Precisely. The result of Smith's snaps this Sunday. It directly impacts whether they hold on to a valuable future pick or have to essentially mortgage some of that future to cover a present-day problem. It's a massive audition, not just for Smith's career, but maybe even affects how the GM is viewed long-term.
So boiling it all down for the Chiefs' immediate future, it really hinges on Smith. He either shows enough progress, maybe even has that breakout game to take the pressure off, not just on the field, but the pressure on the front office at the trade deadline.
That's the core issue right there. Two paths. Path A, Smith plays great against a tough team. He's the hero, saves the day, lets the front office use their assets elsewhere for maybe smaller upgrades. Path B, Smith struggles again, confirms the worries about his efficiency, and forces their hand into a costly blockbuster addition, which could hurt their flexibility down the road.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a really interesting question to chew on watching this game. How much weight should a team really put on one single game, even a high-profile rivalry game like this? When you're deciding between sticking with your internal draft pick versus spending big assets on a quick fix, is the huge value placed on a statement game, the emotion and narrative around it, is that actually a rational way to judge a player's long-term potential? Or is it maybe just a convenient way to justify a decision that feels urgent because of the deadline pressure? Something to think about.